Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of the Gospel of Mark. So Jesus has been arrested, tried in a highly illegal court at Caiaphas' house. Peter has denied Jesus 3 times, and now in chapter 15, verse 1, it's morning, very early, and the folks who have met at Caiaphas's to drum up charges against Jesus and to condemn him are taking him to Pilate. Pontius Pilate was the Roman procurator of Judea. Pontius Pilate's headquarters would have been Caesarea, but as this is the Passover and a very delicate time politically, culturally, Pilate would have been in the fortress of Antonia. The fortress of Antonia was originally Herod the Great's palace, and it was a large building literally attached to the retaining wall, the north retaining wall of the temple courts, and visible. The top floors were visible from the temple courts. But once Herod the Great has died, then the Romans took that over and used it as their headquarters in Jerusalem. So that's where they're taking him. They wouldn't have had far to travel geographically in town to get there. Matthew gives us the detail that he had to come out and talk to them because they wouldn't go in and talk to him, being Jews. And him being a Gentile. I think we need to stop for just a minute and talk about Pontius Pilate and his history with Caiaphas. We know about Pontius Pilate mainly from Christian sources and from the Jewish historian Josephus, and not from Roman sources. We only have one reference to Pontius Pilate in Roman sources, and that is a reference to him in the Annals of Tacitus, about 70 years after these events, which is describing the events of Nero's persecution. And in order to identify who the Christians are to his readers, he mentions, Tacitus does, that they were followers of a man named Christ who had been executed under one of our procurators, Pontius Pilate. And so that's the only reference that we have from him. But from Josephus primarily, and also from Christian sources, we know much more. Pontius Pilate seems to have been a career military fellow who was quite serious about his job and tried to do it well. We have to understand that the Judaism is a protected religion. By Roman law, it is a religio licita. It is a protected religion. Jews are not bound to violate their religion anywhere in the empire, and when Romans are in Jerusalem, they are forbidden from doing anything that violates Jewish law, which is really better than we behaved in the Green Zone. Anyway, so they weren't allowed to have a bust of the emperor in the fortress of Antonia. They just weren't. What Pilate did was bring a Roman standard into the town as soon as he got there as ruler. And that offended the Jews. And there were protests, and then there was violence against the protesters, and Caiaphas and Pilate were locked in a cat and mouse game, fighting this out in the courts of Rome. Pilate would eventually lose his court battle, and the best of our information is he would be forced to commit suicide for crimes against the Jewish people. That hasn't happened yet, but this is in the process. These charges are in the court system when these things are happening to Jesus. So they bring Jesus to Pontius Pilate, and let's read 1 through 5. In the early morning, the chief priests with the elders and scribes and the whole council. Now, the whole council isn't 72 members of the Sanhedrin, but everybody who had been at Caiaphas' house the night before. They immediately held a consultation, and binding Jesus, they led him away and delivered him up to Pilate. And Pilate questioned him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Answering, he said to him, "You say." And the chief priests began to accuse him harshly. And Pilate was questioning him, saying, "Do you make no answer? See how many charges they bring against you." But Jesus made no further answer, so that Pilate was astonished. In John's Gospel, we get a lot more about Jesus and Pilate, and we really get to know Pilate as an individual, as a human being. That we have a deal of I don't want to say respect or affection, but understanding for, maybe even a tiny bit of appreciation for him. Certainly an appreciation of his intellect and of him and of his treatment of Jesus, who is a Jew, as a person he can engage in conversation with. It's just a wonderful, marvelous exchange, the two exchanges between Jesus and Pilate in John's Gospel. Ultimately, he's a military leader with his responsibilities and a politician, and he does what he knows to be the wrong thing, which is to execute an innocent man. Matthew's Gospel also gives us the extra detail that Pilate's wife tells Pilate, "Don't do anything bad to this Jesus. I've been suffering from nightmares about him all day." And of course, we do see in the four Gospels Pilate taking every step to avoid executing Jesus, but ultimately he does. I want to also look at one other thing in the text, and my translation, which I'm reading from the New American Standard, adds words. Answering, Jesus said to him, "It is as you say." In other words, affirming that he is the King of the Jews. But that's not in the text. It just says, "You say." And in fact, in John's Gospel, Jesus says to them, "Is this what you think? Is this what you're saying?" And Pilate responds, "Why do I know? And why would I take an interest in this Jewish matter?" You know? So I don't think Jesus is saying yes to him at this point. I think that Jesus is saying, that's what they're saying. That's what you say. And otherwise making no other comment. Although Mark doesn't give us the accusations, we understand what they are from Pilate's question. He's claiming to be the Son of God, that he's claiming to be the Messiah, that he's claiming to be the King of the Jews. Of those three things, King of the Jews would be the one thing that would get him executed if it could be proven. Okay, we'll pick up at this point next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes.